live.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Conversation with Sam. This week's discussion will center around the recent SCO Summit that was held in China and the impact of rising US tariffs on India. With shifting alliances, regional tensions, and evolving trade policies, the SCO Summit plays a critical role in defining the new dynamics of cooperation across Asia, Eurasia, and beyond. At the same time, recent changes in the US trade tariffs raise important questions about India's role in the global supply chain, its economic resilience, and its strategic response. So, if you're a student or an enthusiast or a global citizen, then today's interaction will be useful to you. So, without further wasting time, I will now request Mr. Sam Pitroda to address our audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyamvada. Thank you, Pendra. You guys in the background do all the work and I show up at the right time. So I appreciate all that you do every week. Last week, because of holidays, we didn't get a chance to connect. So greetings to everybody. I hope you are all well. The reason we selected the topic of the day was that I found in the last few days all social conversation with friends and family on phone and in person really focused on these two issues. Every time someone called, and I get sometimes maybe a couple of hundred calls a day, believe me, people talk about what happened in Shanghai, what is going on with tariff. And as a result, I thought it would be good to just have a conversation. I'm no expert on foreign policies, nor I know enough about tariffs. But I think as a common concerned citizen, I have some very strong views on what's going on in the world. Like many of us, those who have gone through a long journey and are at the tail end, feel that this is not what we had hoped for. On one hand, a lot of progress has been made because of technology, new tools, comforts have increased. You could easily travel now. You could connect with anybody. The overall quality of life has improved. But at the same time, people are not happy. There is always this fear about what will happen next. Typically, salaries have increased, but inflation has also eaten into their salaries. So everywhere there is uncertainty. The book I wrote 5 years ago talks about the need to redesign the world. And if we first focus on the Shanghai Cooperation Summit, world attention is on this because many feel this is a next step to help redesign the world. In that book, I talked about the fact that world was last designed after World War II, just about the time I was born in 42. That design was created by US to really dominate economy, order, and development. That design was based on democracy, human rights, capitalism, consumption, and military power. That design gave birth to UN, World Bank, IMF, WHO, WTO ultimately, NATO, and all that. But then world was divided in two parts. Soviet Union, more of a communist bloc, and US, more of a democratic bloc. That design served well in rebuilding Europe, rebuilding Japan, and developing technology and economy to increase comfort world over. And we all have benefited from that design. I always remind myself that when I came to America, I had not used telephone. I had not seen television. I had not been to anybody's house who had a refrigerator. And look at what is going on today in India. All of these things are common now. So world has benefited from that design, but now the fact that we are all connected, the fact that China could rise, we are all worried about the next order. Unfortunately, next order is also seen in terms of you versus me, us versus them. And that's where there is fundamental issue that I have. So this conference in Shanghai was partly designed, partly portrayed, projected as an alternative to US dominance, that China is becoming a major global power number two. So it's no longer Russia, but it's China because of the economic clout, because of the population and progress China has made in the last 20 years. In general, people believe in golden rule, and that is very simple. One who has gold makes the rule. This has been going on for centuries. Kings made the rule because they had the gold. America made the rules because America had the gold, meaning financial power. Now that China is beginning to accumulate a lot of gold, financial power, China feels we can also set rules of the game. And as a result, this conference was seen and projected as a rise of China. So the fact that Russian president went to this and played an important role says that Russia is willing to let go Russian power in favor of Chinese power. The key was India's participation. So almost all communist dictatorial countries were there. And the world saw this as a new power center consisting of China, Russia, Korea, North Korea, and many others against US, Europe, and others. And India's presence there really brought in a lot of credibility, questions, and concerns. These signals at times are misread, misunderstood, misrepresented, and it was seen as the fact that India is moving away from US, and this was also seen in light of tariff war. That's why these two topics are connected. If Trump had not put in 50% tariff, some people believe that Modi would not go there, and the signal would be very clear that we are part of a democratic bloc. But this whole business of two blocks, to me, creates unnecessary global tension. With the wars going on in Israel and Gaza and Ukraine and Russia, these things take different meaning. I remain very worried that we are still thinking in old framework, that if I'm rising, you should be coming down, as opposed to saying, why can't we all rise together? And the fundamental view that I've been trying to promote and emphasize is that we need to shift our thinking from power and profit to planet and people. It is that simple. But somehow that doesn't get communicated, articulated, understood, and followed. So this Shanghai conference was more of a show of power and profit, concentration of wealth, saying we have lots of wealth now, we can call the shot in the world, and all of these countries coming together can really face America and really change the world dynamics. And this bothers me. This bothers me a lot because it's a attitude of confrontation. It is still the old paradigm of command and control, as opposed to collaboration, cooperation, co-creation, and communication. So at this conference, there were lots of photo ops, signals, small conversations which were picked up, and images of India, China, Russia all holding hands and talking to each other conveyed a message to the West. So it became more of a East versus West show. Symbols are important at international level to a point. To me, substance is more important than symbols. And the substance has to convey a different meaning today. If substance had conveyed that we are together to really worry about the planet, we are together to really take care of people of the planet, whether it has to do with hunger, poverty, crime, homelessness, food security. None of these issues were discussed at all. The issues that remain on the table at these conferences really concerned leaders focused on power and profit. So at most of these conferences, you do trade deals, you buy defense equipment, and you never discuss how to improve education. While all of this design thinking is going on, overriding issue to me is the impact of AI on the world, impact of AI on food, impact of AI on jobs, impact of AI on trade is going to be so very important that we have left that to business. We have left that to market. You saw the number in the US about employment that came out this week. And I believe it is the beginning of the layoffs and lack of jobs. Not too long ago, every parent wanted their children to go into IT, poor parents especially, so they could immediately get a job and begin to feed a family of 5 or 7. Because a lot of these kids graduating from college earn more money than their parents or father did after 30 years of experience in the government or offices. Unfortunately, today, if you graduate with a computer science degree, you can't get a job. Even in America, you can't get a job. So all of a sudden, there is a big shift. And this has to do with AI. So when you look at Shanghai Summit, it was really, on one hand, designed to bring a block of people who are sort of seen as anti-America, pro-Chinese, and show at the end military power of China. So it was all about power and profit. That mindset continues. America was watching what was going on, world was watching, and Indian Prime Minister's presence there sent all kinds of signals to the world. Today, part of the redesign also has to do with what Trump has been doing in US as well as in other parts of the world through US strategies and presence, whether it is NATO or calling Department of Defense Department of War, or changing health policies, breaking WTO completely, and all the work that gone into WTO for the last 50 years, throwing out of the window and saying it'll be one-to-one relationship on trade and not a block. All of these things are changing the world dynamics. If India is to pay 50% tariff, it will have huge impact no matter what anybody else says on Indian economy. On one hand, you could see this as a crisis and India could rise through this crisis. But that requires a different kind of mindset. That requires peace at home. That requires a lot of collaboration at home, which we don't have today. So, to capitalize on this crisis, like we did during Green Revolution, we need everyone in the country to come together to design a new economic policy. So, trade war is again defining geopolitical equation. Ideally, I would like to see regional blocks. I would like to see like ASEAN, South Asia bloc. I mean, how could you think of world if you have conflicts with your neighbor all the time? I mean, look at India. India is surrounded by countries, though small, with conflicts. Our equation with Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, even China, Myanmar. That's where the focus has to be. So the world really needs to look at first regional blocks. EU is a bloc. You really don't have a sound bloc with Middle East, but you could have Middle East bloc, Africa bloc, South Asia. Asia is big. Asia Pacific, North America, South America. If these blocks work together and then between blocks, you will have a better design as opposed to dividing in the middle and saying China and US, like Russia and US. We are still thinking in old paradigm. And it bothers me. But I also feel that not much can be done until your voices are heard. And your voices will never be heard because you are not part of the power and profit club. If you are part of the planet and people club, very little attention is paid to what you say, how you say. And as a result, those who are in power want to keep the old paradigm. And now they are saying power is going to shift from US to China or shared or divided. As opposed to saying we are all coming together to really make sure that the planet is a better place. I mean, look at what is going on in India right now with rain. I mean, what is happening in Punjab, especially because it's the food basket of India, is of great concern. I mean, there have been flood in Himachal, there have been flood everywhere. But in particular, Punjab is of great concern because it's the center of our food production. And when you see hundreds of thousands of acres underwater, you know the implication on food production that is coming. But that crisis also has to do with not paying attention to planet. All the developments in that part of the world was not in tune with the nature. I remember Bahuguna, the environmental activist in my time, this was 40, 45 years ago, was against all the dams being built there. And he and I had some very good conversations in 80s, and he used to come to many of these meetings. And nobody heard him. And we just went off and built all kinds of things which were against the nature. And I think we are paying the price today. Yeah. The nature is reacting to what we did to that soil. So we have not come together at the Shanghai meeting, or we didn't come together to really discuss the real problems of planet and people. But we went ahead and talked about power and profit. And that trend continues and gets more and more powerful, and that bothers. That bothers many of us. I'm into several groups talking about this, but it's talking to ourselves. Nobody's paying attention to us, you know. But this is the future. And this is going to affect my grandchildren and their children. And that's why I'm concerned. Why should I be concerned at this point in time? I could be having gin and tonic and enjoying life. Why should I worry? I worry about these things because this is the future of our grandchildren, of my grandchildren. And I am very concerned as to what is happening in the world. I am very concerned with what happened in India because of the rain, which is, to me, a result of not paying attention to the climate control, climate crisis. I am very concerned about India's role in the world by showing up at the Shanghai meeting. We sort of confuse complicated worldview on India. And what is going on in India vis-a-vis concern for free and fair elections, also the kind of developmental model that we have selected, which is again geared towards Western idea of wealth distribution. So very few people have become very rich, and a lot of people have remained very poor. So the decentralization model that Gandhiji talked about, district level development, regional blocks, needs to be applied at global level, because then only there'll be local jobs created. When we talk about Atmanirbhar, this has been going on. It's not new. I mean, if we had not focused on indigenous development, there won't be Indian talent in IT. There won't be uh, software capabilities, atomic energy, space, management schools, you know, all kinds of capabilities in India comes from India's focus on self-reliance right after independence. So self-reliance is not a new formula. Without self-reliance, we won't be where we are. But the way it is projected is that we are now focusing on self-reliance, and until then, we had not focused. Not true. So the real messages are not going to people, and people are being fooled. And as a result, people really don't understand India's role in the future. To me, India is the most critical element of the world geopolitics. And fortunately, we have remained a democratic country. And I personally believe the fundamentals of democracy are very important, because democracy is really designed to empower each individual. Democracy is designed around human beings. Democracy is really encouraging freedom, liberty, justice, equality, inclusion. That's why democracy is important to me. I can't see myself living in a country where there is no equality, where there is no justice. But when many countries shift to that dictatorial power, where on the whims of political leaders, justice is changed, freedom is curtailed, whether it is of press or individual, then it worries me. And I see that is going on in many parts of the world. Ultimately, what matters is my freedom, my flexibility, my empowerment. So I decide within certain boundaries what I should do, where I should live, what I should say, how I could say, what I study. And this is the key to redesigning the world. So at the Shanghai conference, none of these issues were important. Issues of the people and planet were not important. Pardon me for saying it. Okay. And what is going on with tariff? Issues of planet and people are not part of the tariff formula. I remain worried mainly because both of these take something away from democracy, development, freedom, liberty, equality. I see a lot of discussion on immigration and all. And I say, look, human history is all about migration. Everybody came from somewhere. And we don't recognize that. And we begin to design in our mind boundaries. This nationalism is at rise because we want to protect our territory. There was no nationalism 200 years ago. Not that nationalism is not important, but anything that takes you to one extreme is of concern to me. In the closing, before we open up for conversation, I would say that the Shanghai conference sent signals to world, and the world is accepting those signals that China is a second power rising, challenging. To me, is a wrong way to design our future. The right way to design our world and future is that we are all in it together. And we all need to work to improve quality of life of the people and protect our planet for our grandchildren. That message is not going out at all. And if it is going out, it is not seen in action. Thank you. Thank you, Priyambada, and thank you, Upendra. Let's open up for a conversation. I hope this was useful.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So the first question is from, I think, is a comment and a question from Anu. So he's saying that are we missing from the path that Pandit Nehru had set like he has mentioned in his book Discovery of India, and like what is the future ahead for us? Is Modi ji like fooling people of India?
I believe in Nehru's view of the world because it was more like Gandhiji's view of the world. It was more about democracy, equality, justice, fundamentalists. Now you can represent, one piece here and one piece there and misread. But you have to see in totality that these people, that generation, stood for human dignity. They fought for independence from British Raj, not just in India, for rest of the world. India triggered decolonization all over the world. Okay. So having been decolonized, which is large part of the world, should we be focusing on protecting our liberty, not as a nation, but as human being, and supporting all those who believe in democratic values, who believe in free and fair elections, who believe in, you know, human rights, who believe in diversity. I think that's the challenge. Okay. And that's where we are sending wrong signals, I believe. Okay. I know Anoop well, and thanks, Anoop, for joining.
So the next comment is from Ash. So he's saying, based on the current climate, old history, or saying, will not manage today's world. You need to adjust with today's present for the better future.
Absolutely true, Ash. I think we are not thinking in terms of the reality, new tools, new possibilities. We are still thinking in terms of old paradigm, which has been going on for thousands of years. Fight, conquer, kill, control, you know, which is silly. That world didn't have enough resources. That world didn't know how to generate enough resources to do good for everybody. Today, we can produce anything. For the first time in the human history, we are capable of producing anything. We can feed 10 billion people. We can provide energy as much as possible. We have already connected every human being in the world almost. I mean, look at the progress we have made. So we need to think differently. We need to think in terms of economy of abundance and not economy of scarcity. Today, we still think in terms of economy of scarcity, okay, which says, if I get something, you won't get it. No, it's not true. You will get it, and I'll get it, and some more people will get it also. Okay. So don't think in terms of a pie to be divided. A pie will have to be increased, and it is increasing, and we have capacity to increase the pie. Then what is the problem? Where is the enemy? In old, you know, paradigm, you're taking something away from somebody. I don't need to take anything away from everybody and make everybody happy. That's the change in mindset. Okay. We can produce enough clothing. If you want, we can produce enough housing in the world. I was just looking at something recently. China can build a 3,000 square feet house for $30,000 in 2 weeks with all prefab, concrete and steel and all that. It may be true, it may not be true, but the point is that's the way you have to think. That housing could be affordable. Housing doesn't have to be $300 a square feet. Okay. And if we focus on building housing for the world will have enough work for next 10 years. I mean, look at all the slums all over the world. I mean, look at all the slums in India. Can we allow people to live like that in 21st century? Isn't that a business model and opportunity? Okay. What are we talking? If we ignore that, look at the conditions they live in. Okay. So you got to think differently. Thanks, Ash.
Absolutely, sir. There's a comment on the current government foreign policies. So, have what's your take on our current foreign policy, and also with this is my additional question, like with 50% tariff impasse, how do you think India should react, and is it possible to retaliate, or what are the different options?
No, I don't believe in confrontation. I believe in collaboration, cooperation, co-creation. It is painful. It's long term, but it pays off. Okay. So we have to do what we have to do. Okay. We need to focus on local demands, local conditions. We need to find new markets, and we need to work harder. You know, I'm more worried about the implication of AI than implication of tariff. Believe me.
Okay.
I know there are millions of clerks in India in government offices, moving files and all that. Okay. All over in every company, every, government office, every court. Do you really need that? With AI, I have said this time and time again. Why can't I settle all my court cases? If I have 50 million court cases pending, why don't I just focus on AI, and said my software guys who have been laid off, I'm going to put them in, cleaning up court cases. That's what I would do. Okay. Forget about everything else. I have so much work at home that I need to really employ talent to solve my problems and not just produce goods and services for foreign. Okay.
So
That is the
we
basic.
actually with the court cases, it's just like if you make the lives of the citizens easier and like
Yeah,
better,
there is so
I
much
think
work.
the country will be strengthened, and it will create a positive influx within the country.
I
I
was
think
talking to a friend of mine. I was talking to a friend of mine from Baroda, a very close friend. And I said, "How are you?" He said, "Oh, I'm really very busy for last 1 year." I said, "On what?" He said, "Closing the company." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Yeah, for a year and a half, I've been working on closing the company." Now, can you imagine? The guy is a PhD from America, and he's wound up in closing the company, which is he because he's old and he doesn't want to continue anymore. I mean, it should be 1 week job. But in India, for a year and a half, poor guy is totally preoccupied because all the rules and regulations are such that you have to liquidate all the assets. Some assets cannot be liquidated, so you have to just make sure that you do the right documentation. All this crap, but that goes on. You know, why can't we simplify so that the company can be closed in 1 week if you don't have any debt? And if you're debt, you settle all the debt and you close it. What is so big deal? But you have to show this paper and this documents and that documents. It's crazy. I mean, just for a regular board meeting, the amount of documentation you have to prepare, to make sure that everything is done right is unreal. Okay, there is no freedom in corporate world in that sense. Okay, but then at the same time, those who want to do wrong do it anyway.
yeah.
But those who want to do right, their hands are tied. You know. So
Thank you, sir.
there was a
So
question I saw earlier on the
uh,
screen.
yeah. So
Yeah, Gopal. The truth
so
behind the failure of tariff negotiations is not coming out. Modi did not intervene to project his crony businessman. Well, I don't know. I mean, this is,
hmm,
yeah, there are many different views,
yeah,
but I think there is a larger issue here than just individuals, you know. But fine, we all have our opinions.
yeah.
Thank
So there's a comment from Harshavardhan. There's constant fear in the mind as no industrial growth, unemployment, privatization. Country is playing in the hands of few corporates, then declining rupees, all sorts of problems. The four pillars of democracy are not working. They have been hijacked. So what's the solution?
you. The solution is for people to realize what is going on and you know, bring in a change. Okay. If they believe this is the wrong path, you got to get country on the right path. Yeah. But it's difficult because everything is controlled. Judiciary is controlled, security is controlled. Okay. And as a result, people get frustrated. Yeah.
So there's another comment from Ash. He's saying because of the old laws and regulations, as you mentioned, like the clerical work is uh, been like the staff. It's all problematic. Also,
Absolutely.
sir, yeah, one
See,
also one.
according to me, we need to re-employ these people. There is so much work needs to be done. Look at the garbage cleaning
Oh
in
yes.
India. Oh my God, you could be busy with 10 million people in India cleaning garbage for next 10 years. Okay. But the guy who is in the office doesn't want to do that. Okay. That's not acceptable anymore. We got to retool the country. And for that, we got to redesign our work. Okay, if I'm sitting in the office every morning and drinking tea at 9 o'clock and then another tea at 10:30, another tea at 11:30, that job doesn't exist, my friend. Okay. So somebody will have to recognize that the future is going to be different. Future cannot be the way it has been. Okay.
So, but then how do you solve this, the psyche of whoever sits in that office, not resolving the current problems? Like there are so many of them, like mention the bureaucrats or even in the government offices. What is what holds them back? What's is it?
It's mindset. I'm telling
Yeah.
you, I when I worked with the Manmohan Singh government, I would go to many offices. You go to finance department, you go to Ministry of Industries. This is 15, 20 years ago, and you see the condition of the office. Okay. Drapes are not hung properly, painting is not straight. I mean, this is valuable stuff. Okay. And it shows the attitude. And then all of a sudden you go to minister's office, everything is perfect. Everything is perfect. Okay. It's like when I became chairman of Telecom Commission in India in late 80s. The first person I met after I entered my office is a guy comes in with a key saying, "Sir, here is the key to your bathroom." I said, "I don't need that key. I'll go to public bathroom." He said, "No, no, 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 no. There's a chairman's bathroom." Because I know chairman's bathroom is perfect and public bathroom is a mess. And they don't want chairman to go to that bathroom. Okay. So this whole hierarchical mindset has to change. Okay.
So as you said, like the ultimate goal is like decentralization. I think when you delegate your authority, it will ultimately
Absolutely.
help.
Absolutely. And we need decentralization to the level of district. Okay. Every district of 2 million people should be independent in a sense. Every district should have their own college, their own hospital. 2 million people is a lot of people to be served. They should worry about their roads. Why should Delhi worry about their roads? Today, the salary of the teacher is decided in Delhi. I mean, it's obscene. Okay. They can do whatever they want to do in that district. Okay. But you don't give them freedom. They can't collect tax. Okay. State government will decide how much money they'll give you. And the head of the district is a bureaucrat. He's not a political boss. Okay. I mean, all the cities are run by commissioners, not by mayor. Okay. I mean, what kind of a system is that? But this has been going on for ages. We try to change. Everybody says great idea, but nobody does it. You know.
Absolutely, sir. There's just a comment from Kiran Kumaris about the like we discussed about the babudam psyche, that needs to be replaced by empathy and accountability. But I think education and is more important in this area, to all those people who are working right now. I think they are working under pressure of some other minister, MLA. Like we had this case yesterday where a deputy CM in Maharashtra is threatening an IPS officer on telephone about like
But
not doing
they
her
all
job.
do that because they think they are
Yeah,
Maharajas. Okay, they don't respect. I saw that little clip. That girl was just
yeah,
perfect. She was really good. I admire her. Okay, saying, sir, I
absolutely.
don't know. I can't do this. So I think it's not that simple because people also need to demand performance.
Exactly.
If
Yes.
you don't demand performance, you don't get performance. People don't demand. They say, okay, fine. You know, and our whole psyche is based on feudalistic attitude and hierarchical attitude. Okay. If you are the boss, you know everything. Nobody would say to the boss, hey, you don't know this. It's okay for you to accept that somebody else is more knowledgeable in this area. Okay. But in India, immediately people will say, do you know who I am? Okay. Whosoever you are, you broke the law, you broke the law. Okay. In traffic jam, people will just, uh, exercise their power. Yeah. So it's a cultural issue. It's a very complex issue. But at the end of the day, you have to respect other human being. If you are capable and powerful, you got to be humble. You got to be simple. You got to be helpful. You don't want to show your power to promote yourself. That shows weakness of the person. A weak person says, hey, you know who I am? That's a weak guy. Okay. A strong person never says who I am. He says, okay, I'll wait. You know. But the
Uh,
environment we have created only respects rich and powerful. You know.
and this I think percolates at the global level, like how we
Of
behave
course,
internally. It
of
it
course.
it reflects on the global arena, like how we.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
So before we end, just one last question from Mohammad Khurshid. He's asking, what is the solution for all this? How do we resolve these problems?
I wish there were one line solutions. Everybody's looking for that. There is no such thing. Solutions require one, very long time, two, lot of trial and error. What you think works today will not work tomorrow. But you need men and women with character and concern to fix their own community. I mean, how many people find that their own family is not in tune with the idea of democracy? Okay. They like authoritarian regime, you know, and then you pay for it. Okay. So ultimate key is decentralization, local level, concern. If I was today living in a small district in India, I would really focus on that district and not worry about China or you know US at this point in time. Okay, because they are not going to change my water supply. Okay, fine. As an intellectual exercise, I would be, but I got to fix my dam, my rivers, my water, my well, my house. I mean, how many people paint their house in India? You look at it. Look at the business opportunity and the jobs. Okay, you talk about job. All the office workers just go paint your office, na? Okay. Take a picture of 10 cities in India, and you will see that everything looks run down because maintenance is not part of the culture. You build it, but you don't maintain. You know, there is huge amount of work in India. There is work cut out for next 50 years to fix things in India. Okay? We got to see things differently. And work does not mean, exporting only. Okay? There are people who would export and we should support them, and that's good. Okay. But everybody can't be looking for work in export. Okay.
Thank you, sir,
I
for
hope
your.
I hope this was
Yes,
useful.
sir, very much.
Okay.
And we are
I just
always.
talk off the cuff.
Yes, sir. I think
Okay.
that's the beauty of the conversation, because it should be like, it should be
Yeah, but
whatever
that's
comes
what
to
I
your
want.
mind.
I want
Yeah.
it to be a conversation with bunch of friends, young
Yes,
friends.
yes. So,
Okay.
yeah. And we have good response. Now we have like 200 odd people joining live, and we get good views after we upload the videos. So,
No,
thank
thank
you,
you.
sir, for.
Thank you
Yeah,
all, and really appreciate everyone joining. And if you all want to hear about something else, we can talk about all kinds of topics. Again,
absolutely.
not that I'm expert.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, but
But for
it's a
example,
good.
I can talk about friendship.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, it is such an important issue to me. I have the best friends anybody could ever find in your life. Best of the best. Okay. How did that happen? I just, before we close, I'll give you one example. I have 5 doctor friends. Yeah. Dinkar Trivedi, Piyush Vyas, Shiban Ganju, DVS Mehta, okay, and one very close friend who died, psychiatrist. One was psychiatrist, one is a endocrinologist, one is a gastronomy or whatever, and the one is a radiologist, and one is heart specialist. We became friends in Chicago, except one. And I'm telling you, they take care of me more than my family. Okay. They'll call me every week. And one doctor calls me every day. 365 days, he has to call me and say, "Are you okay? Everything okay?" All right. When I have surgery, all 5 doctors would be in the surgery room. I mean, how do you get that? So there are great human beings. I have been blessed with so many good friends everywhere, not just in health, but in business, in education. But it takes time to build those relationships. There are lots of good people in this world, you know, and I tell you, that's what life is all about. Is good friends, good family. And what does it mean to have a good friend? How do you build a good friend? What do you have to invest? We can talk on friendship for 3 sessions. I'm telling you as an example.
yes,
Okay,
so maybe next week or a week
whatever.
later we can
I mean, you
have.
all decide that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, sir, for taking your
Thank
time
you,
out.
everybody.
And
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank
Love you
you.
all.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.